Oh my gosh, it says I'm live. Could be. The thing stopped rotating. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Michael Bunker. I'm going to be your host for the evening on the Bunker Nation show. I hope you guys are here. I hope somebody's going to visit. Hope somebody's going to ask questions, participate in the show. Come on into the comments section, write in your name, and wherever you are, say hi. Love to hear from you. Let me know if the audio and the video is working. A lot of times it's not. I don't like to sit here for very long if there's no audio and video. So hope everybody's doing all right. It is hot here. I don't know what the temperature is, but it was 100 degrees just a little while ago. Check really quickly, give you the weather report. And always remember, the weather report here is what it actually is. It's not the 72 degrees that is going on inside your house. 97 degrees and sunny. It's going to be 100 degrees for the next 7 days. It's already been 100 for the last 3. Hope everybody's doing all right. Haven't seen any comments yet, so if you're out there, hit the like button. Come on into the comment section and say hi. In the meantime, I'm going to do this box thing. We got to do the box thing. We haven't done it in a while. All right, there we are. 1 minute and 30 seconds into this thing, and I don't have a comment, so I don't even know if I'm on. That will not last long. Let me see if I can figure something else out here. This is when I want to quit. All right, so I see comments over on the YouTube page that are not coming through. The comments are not coming through. Oh, that's always great. Hold on a second. Nothing I'm doing. Set him up, Joe. All right, so Pat's here, Daniel's here, Scott Glenn's here in attendance. Glad to see you guys. It is hot. Come on in, everybody. I see that people are commenting on YouTube. I don't know if anybody's commenting anywhere else. The comments, for some reason, are just not showing up. So I don't know whether I should keep going or not, but I guess I will. I won't see your comments, though, unless I switch over to YouTube and take a look. All right, so I'll give you an update of what's going on. I'm getting over my food poisoning. I was up to 180 pounds this morning, so that means I've recovered 3.5 pounds. I'm eating regularly now. Feel good. Worked out again this morning. Everything feels like it's somewhat back to normal, so I'm glad about that. I'm just being careful about what I eat and when, making sure I stay hydrated, like I hope you are. So like I said, it was very, very hot today. And so I've spent a lot of time in the hammock, just waiting out the heat. This morning I was at the grocery store, and I had several talks planned. One of the talks that people have been private messaging me, asking me to do, is about the phenomenon of the Karens. And of course, everybody thinks they know what I would say or what I'm going to say, and they don't. So a lot of people are like, we don't want to talk about Karens. That's too bad. Although I didn't want to talk about it anyway, because that's kind of stuff that gets you canceled. So the other option was to talk about the urban flight, people getting out of the cities. A lot of it not really being talked about. I mean, there's the usual news that's been going on for the last couple years about people leaving California, people leaving New York and Illinois, moving south, basically trying to escape high taxation, that sort of thing. Not really what I'm talking about. All right, thank you, Don. It says audio and video are good. I'm only going to see your comments if I switch over to YouTube, and I'll only probably see them on YouTube. So give you a little background before I launch into this. And I've done a few talks in this series about cities and about their future and their history, the history of the city. Talked a lot about Lewis Mumford and Upton Sinclair. I always do that. And going to talk a little bit about that today. Most of you will not have heard that since most of you probably weren't here or weren't listening at the time. And so I'll do a little bit of a background on that. But some of you who follow me on Facebook and you followed me consistently for a long time may know that my parents and my sisters were talking about selling their house. They have two houses up in Angel Fire, New Mexico, which is a resort town in the mountains, Sangre de Cristo Mountains of northern New Mexico. They were talking about selling one of the houses, the smaller of the two houses. They're across the street from each other. They were both rental resort properties that my parents would use several times a year. My sisters would use. I hadn't been up there but once in about 12 years. So I have nothing to do with those properties. But my dad was, and my sisters were were mentioning selling one of those. And I actually put it on my Facebook that house was for sale, just because I know that some people follow me from Hollywood, and there might be somebody out there who had some money that was looking for something. This was, of course, December before the what's going on now. And really no takers. Nobody really was even that curious or that interested. And those resort towns at the time, very difficult to sell houses. You got to hit things at the right time. You have to hit things when the economy's doing really, really, really good. And it happens to be a transition time where people have a lot of money. They're trying to find some place to put it. Economy, maybe not, the stock market maybe not doing so great, and other investments don't look that good. And so somebody's looking for a house that sleeps 8 or up to 15 or whatever, that cost a lot of money, that they can use as a rental property and then use it to go skiing and that kind of thing. All of this is background to my discussion on the city. Anyways, with what's been going on, my dad had talked to a few people, some realtors and all that, and a lot of houses in that area and in other resort areas in New Mexico, like Ruidoso and some other places. Houses were just selling as fast as they could get them on the market. In fact, they were going sight unseen. People were not even coming out to see the properties. They were buying them over the phone. They were buying them off the internet that quickly. A lot of them going for over asking price. So this was a phenomenon I've been tracking for a while. My dad and my sisters put the smaller house up for sale a month or so ago, and it sold very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And so then they got together, and the big house, which I call the big house, which is a huge house across the street that sleeps up to 15 people. And they decided to go ahead and sell it. My dad's getting up in age. He's 77 years old. And my mom's 78. And my dad just said, I don't want to go up there and take care of him anymore. I don't want to do all the work, and it's too much work, and I got to do it all by myself. And so I just don't want to do it anymore. So they decided to sell the other house, and they put it on the market. It sold in 6 days. 6 days. This is not a cheap house. So the point is that there's a lot going on that's more than just people leaving the city. I just got Don Harmons. I just got your audio and video goods. I know that was up on YouTube 5 minutes ago. So for some reason, I'm not getting Facebook comments, and the YouTube comments are way delayed. So this goes beyond the normal people leaving the city because taxes are too high, or because they can't afford it, or looking for better jobs, better climate, whatever it is. We've talked about that down here in Central Texas for some time. There's a lot of California transplants that are coming out. Austin area out here in Central Texas, opening up vineyards. It makes a lot of sense. If you have a small quarter-acre lot in Los Angeles, nothing special, a little tiny house. It's been in your family for 2 generations. you can sell it for $2.1 million and you have cash money to come out to Texas and buy a 180-acre farm and maybe put in a 6 or a 12-acre vineyard with a nice big house and very low taxes, no income tax. That's not what we're really talking about right now. That's been going on for some time. And anytime you bring up this topic, you got just as many dumb conservatives, red state rednecks who are out there, and they get in the comment section on, hey, you can't keep them out of the comment section. Like, don't y'all come out here with your ding dang liberal politics, blue state. You need to come down here and turn us into what you got going on over there. We don't want it. Leave your politics over there. You come out here and do that too. The reason I don't care to hear it, because that same guy who's in every comment section saying don't bring your politics with you and all that kind of stuff, sends his children to the public schools to be taught by those people. You don't have to wait for the Californians to move out here. It's going to go the exact same way in one generation, and it'll be your children that are doing it. So I just erase all that stuff. I delete it because it's just stupid. And it's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about now is the beginning of a stream of the realization. This is when I do several talks on emergency survival behavior, psychology. And one of those is, and I've talked about it on here, the ferry, the boat ferry situation where you find out what happens when a boat or a ferry is sinking, and they've actually had videotapes on sinking ferry before, and they've watched how people behave. Governments are in the business of mitigating panic, because panic is the big trigger in every true apocalyptic situation. It's not the thing that is the thing. It's when people realize it's a thing. And I've been talking about it on this channel for a long time. You guys have heard me talk about it over. The thing is never the thing. It's what people think it is. When people start to actually think the thing, that's when the thing becomes the thing. The people who are going to be the first to start thinking a thing are the people who can afford it to pull the trigger quickly. Now, the very same people who were on social media in March, first couple of weeks of March, pardon me, that's not COVID. That's water getting down the wrong pipe. Decrying other people buying toilet paper. Talking about all the idiots out there buying toilet paper. Complaining because they didn't get any toilet paper because they didn't run out and get any. All right, so the messages are just now starting to populate in the comment section. Hello, Richard. Hello, Cindy. Hello, Don. Hello, Stephen. And so the same people who were both complaining about other people going about toilet paper, then complaining because they didn't get to buy any. These are the people now who are buying houses. They're hoarding houses. These are not houses that they intend immediately to live in. They don't intend to move. They're buying houses because they have cash. They don't trust the stock market with what's going on. Most of them do come from blue state cities or blue cities. And they're looking for other places to put their money other than the stock market. If you're sitting on $500,000, that's not that much in California terms, in New York terms, in Chicago terms. But that's a house that will sleep 15 people in the resort mountains of New Mexico, merely a mile from the ski resort. In Ruidoso, the same thing's going on. People buying houses sight unseen. They don't plan on living there immediately. What they're doing is they're buying themselves an out, or at least what they think is an out. PJ got bumped off the Facebook Live. I don't know why. Invite her over here. So these people are buying themselves an out. They're buying themselves a resort home, an escape home. Experienced something differently when that house in New Mexico got bought. had nothing to do with Y2K. Going back before I even heard the term Y2K. 1997, 1996, 97. My dad and I were looking for a get out of Dodge piece of land, a place where if things got bad, if things got ugly, you might go live off the land, be able to survive, get away. We weren't in the city per se. We were living out in the country. And so we looked up in Colorado and we looked in New Mexico, and then I kind of dove out of the looking, and then my dad ends up buying this resort house that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. He just bought it, and it turned out to be a good investment. He made money off of it for 20 years or however long it was, 20 some years. But that's what's going on here, but it's a trickle. The same thing's going on in Wyoming, same thing's going on in Montana, same thing's going on primarily right now. It's in areas that have investment potential, who have hipster potential, where those sorts of people can go and get a nice latte, and there's a nearby town that might have an art museum or several outside of Fredericksburg, Texas. If you're watching Yellowstone, you see what's going on there. There's a whole scene, no spoilers, in one of the early seasons where Beth and her boss are buying up land left and right, sight unseen, just buying it. So this kind of thing is happening all over the country. There's concern that somehow this is going to change the politics. I've argued against that idea, especially when people bring up Austin, the fact that Austin is a hard blue dot in a sea of red, and that so many people, so many Tesla, I guess Joe Rogan's moving, are coming out to the Austin area, and everybody's predicting Texas is going to go blue. If you actually look, Austin has hard walls. It's a city. It has boundaries. The people that are living in Austin but don't live in Austin, like Pflugerville or some of those other places, those places, the suburbs, but they're actually in the city, are becoming redder and redder. That's not the point of this talk, and I don't want to get into the politics. Hello, Missouri. My point is that there's a tendency to think solely in the sense that this is people escaping the grip of the maw of socialism. I don't think that's the primary motivation here. I think the primary motivation is fear. I think there is something innate, intrinsic in human nature that knows that the city is not tenable, that the city has always been a gamble. It's always been a riverboat gamble on a boat that's sinking. It has always shown itself to be folly throughout history. If you have a long enough view of history, we can go through the history of Paris. We can go through the history of London. We can go any huge disaster in history. We're talking about cities. That's what we're talking about. Stalingrad, Moscow. So there's some different phenomena we can talk about, but I wanted to really quickly go through an update for some of you. For the rest of you, it's going to be brand new. What is a city? What is its purpose? And why is it inevitable that the city is going to collapse? The city is going to fall in upon itself. And the city, I'd be speaking both metaphorically and physically, that the city is going to become a dystopia. The city itself was never a place designed to be a place for people to live in. The original of the word is citadel. A citadel was merely a walled or a fenced area, usually with soldiers, that citizens from outside in the countryside could escape to. They could fall back to, come inside the gates. The gates would be closed. You can see this in all the metaphors and the stories of the Bible. Jericho, for example. The people, for the most part, didn't live in the city. Now, later on, Jericho, for example, people lived on the walls of the city. Merchants took over, and merchants moved into the cities. And so, and they did so for a couple of different reasons, because there were soldiers there that could protect the trade and sale of goods and services, and because they have political power when they were in the city. Cities, for the most part, for most people, were some place that you went to trade. Richard says, for someone from New York City going rural is moving to Lubbock. For someone from Lubbock, it means moving to Bangs. Yeah, it is relative, and I'm going to get to all that. And so the city was not designed socially, or I guess philosophically, to be a place where people live. It was to be a place where people go. You trade, you do your barter. Read Russian literature. Some of the great stories in Russian literature are about people going to the fair. And the fair, which what became the state fairs and the city fairs of America, started off in Europe and Eurasia. And the fair was, because there were no citadels nearby, there were no trading posts nearby, a area would everybody would bring all of their goods and services from a year. So your potatoes, your rice, your wheat, whatever, and they would have a big festival. And people would come and trade. They would bring all their wagons, and they would load up all the stuff they would need for a full year. Buying knives and forks, from Mr. Haney, a pot hanging from a wagon, and a lot of the great stories of, in fact, the story. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Tolstoy's short story, God Sees But Waits, I think is the name of it. Somebody find that one for me. I think it's a short story, and it's about some people traveling to the fair, and a murder takes place. And so, throughout history, like I said, cities, other than the big, obvious ones that developed because of huge armies and things like that, Rome and Athens, all of that sort of thing, most of Europe, people lived rurally. And then when the cities began to grow, it was generally because of warfare, pillage, plunder, those sort of things, the growing of the banking sector, merchants becoming mercantilism, and going from there into even worse forms of kind of a banking cartels and trading cartels, things like the East India Company and those kind of things. These places becoming centralized in the cities and beginning to hire out work and labor and coal and all of these things. The cities begin to grow. They bring in more and more and more slave labor. Read Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. It tells you what happens when the Industrial Revolution came along, how you had to try to feed all the people in America from a very, very small area and bringing all the meat into an area, and what happened with all of that. Eventually, if the system in a successful country, capitalistic country, produces enough, becomes productive enough, in other words, becomes good enough at raping this countryside to build up its own largesse, then you end up with some comforts, some wonderful arts and culture and all those things developing in some cities and some places. And then you have people that actually come there for those reasons. And from about 1890 till about 1950, we had the largest move of humans moving from the countryside. And a lot of that was intentional. We had the First World War, which sent most of the men overseas. Once once they seen Paris, became a very famous saying. Once a doughboy or a soldier saw Paris, how are you ever going to get him back on the farm, right? So then you had, you know, the what do you call it? The collapse, economic collapse, the depression. People leaving the countryside had mortgaged their properties, lost them. You got the Dust Bowl. More and more people moving to the cities. You got more and more people moving to California, which became one big city. Then you have World War II, which did the same thing that World War I did. It included a massive organization of the women into labor, moving into the cities to take over the work that the men had to abandon. And so it wasn't until the 1950s when the automobile became normalized and we began to see an interstate highway system that you actually had people moving outside the cities into the suburbs, traveling more. You have that money, which had originally been scraped from the countryside and from the farms and from the villages and brought into the city and centralized in what became urban farming, but commercial farming. That money, which became excess or spending capital for urbanites as they began traveling, the whole Howard Johnson time, Route 66 started helping expand some of the small towns. And then we have the go-go 50s and all that small town America. Didn't last very long. And we began a cycle of recession and depression and foreign entanglements and all those things. And by the 70s, we had massive urban blight. A lot of people were leaving the cities at that time, but not much came of it. And since then, we've been printing money and everything else you know about fiat currency. It's kept the cities afloat. But the time has come. The trickle has started. And anytime, hello, Sheboygan, hello, Missouri, hello, everybody else. I guess, Richard, you're just going to sit there and make clever comments. So here's the thing. What happens right now? We see the wealthiest percentages. People moving out of the country, people moving into the countryside, people, for the most part, as Richard mentioned earlier, a lot of them are moving to smaller cities. They're moving to cities of 180,000, 150,000, 220,000. And then you have people that are buying up resort properties. And the funny thing is that they think that they're going to be more survivable in those places. They think that somehow, although we have a global economy, and although our entire system of goods and services is interlinked, that somehow they're going to be better off in a city of 150,000 than they're going to be in a city of 3 to 5 million. Why is that? Why do they think they're going to be better off? And this is what I really want to kind of hone down on. If we have a global economy, if we have a just-in-time system of goods and services that's intertwined, if we have a trucking system that requires cities and distribution centers and those type of things, why does somebody think that if they move into a town of 150,000 that they're going to be better off, they're going to be safer than they're going to be in a city? Well, I can tell you that the reason why is because those people, them, are not trustworthy. They don't trust those people. They don't trust them with their lives. They don't trust them with anything. Let's look back. Go back as far as the 1987 stock market crash. Had a massive exodus over the next couple of months. People from the cities moving into the countryside. 1997, we had another one. You look at 9/11. 9/11. There was it was written about. In fact, I was just not too long ago. I'm not going to be able to find it. My mouse is stuck. But not too long ago, I was reading an article about the 9/11 exodus from the cities. We've seen it time and time again. And so here we are with the largest exodus from the cities that we've had in the last, I don't know. I don't know how far you'd have to go back. Hey, everybody, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this. I'm going to probably do a couple of banners just to kind of remind people. But I think it's interesting to note that people, even people that hate, and they do hate rural people, they hate them. You could hear it right after the 2016 election. I wasn't on either side, didn't participate. But right after the 2016 election, you had people sitting there trying to, what happened out there in flyover country? Why, I work for the Washington Post and I drove outside the city and I saw actual Trump signs. I saw actual Trump stickers. I felt like I was on another planet. I couldn't get back fast. I read article after article of people trying to explain a phenomenon that they had no idea about. Because these people that they've hated, that they have shown hatred for, and I'm not saying this as a divisive political thing. I'm saying morally, philosophically, they hate rural people with all that word entails. They wish they didn't exist. And so why is it then that somebody who is that way, and most of them are that way, most of them would not come out and say that. They're not going to come out and say that. Come on now. God sees the truth but waits, by Tolstoy. Fantastic story. I would recommend it. I'll tell it here someday. The reason that they would do it, and this is non-political, is because they trust those people more than they trust their neighbor. Read an interesting story yesterday. No. God sees the truth, but waits. Interesting story yesterday, written by a black young lady who had gone, some of you might have seen it, it was going around online, who had gone to Senegal. And she was basically writing that the Senegalese, the Africans, are not like us on many different levels. Has nothing to do with race in and of itself. It has to do with culture. And one of the things she said that she pointed out was that they have no concept of the Ten Commandments. They have no concept of a moral law. They live in a kleptocracy. They've lived in one forever. They live in family clans, and whatever you can, a job is not a place where you go to get paid. It's a place where you go to steal for your family. And so, and I've experienced this in South America and Central America and other places. That's the way it is in the city. You have friends there, but you don't trust them. People don't trust them. For some reason, the people that they hate most in the world, the rural people, they would like to be out there when things go bad. They feel like, as a human, regardless of their race, their color, their politics, or whatever, they'll be able to make some type of human contact, that they can join up, or that people are going to have some sense of law and order, that stealing would be considered wrong, that murder would be considered wrong. Justifying those things, rationalizing them, would be less likely than it would be in the city. I really like somebody to challenge me on this. Otherwise, you're stuck with a really, really strange phenomenon. In a globalist society where if they run out of ketchup, if they run out of potatoes, if they run out of toilet paper, it happens everywhere, and it happens everywhere at the same time. Somehow people know, they innately know, that being locked up with people like themselves, whose character is such that they have sold off those things that make us uniquely human in order to profit, to come together, as the scripture says, to have one purse. When you are in a band of thieves, you're not really safe. Treasure of the Sierra Madre comes to mind. Gold fever. People are going to get out of the cities. Now they're watching riots and they're watching protests. I think it's a lot less. It is political. The real divide in America is rural and urban. But those people are getting out, and they're going to get out because that trickle is the weakness, showing the weakness in the dam. And that trickle is going to grow and grow and grow. And then when something big happens, it's going to be an absolute horde. And the people that come after are going to be the ones that the people who come before want to shoot and stop. The ones that are getting out now, who have the money to get a property in the mountains, who have the money, who think for some reason, and like I said, that conservative who's out there typing in the comment, "You may not bring your ding dang politics out here and turn this into the same cesspool that they left." The guy who's turning his children over to the public school system to learn the exact same things, to become the exact same people. Those conservatives, they're not survivable. They're not sustainable. They don't know how to survive. There's many of those living around me as there are anywhere else. People who think that because they have a generator and a 5-gallon tank of gas that they're just fine. The same people who are buying these houses, who are building these barn dominiums, who are buying these resort properties, are filling them up with freezers. You can't buy a freezer anymore. They're filling them up with storage food. They're filling them up with preparedness gear that they don't know how to use, that they've never tested, that they've never become skilled at using. But they're only a few steps better than the people that will come after them. The people that will come after them, who will come in the great big horde, are the people that aren't going to have money. They're not going to have a place to go. They've been lied to in movies and books, and they actually believe they're going to be able to survive on the land. They're actually going to go, I'm going to take my 22 out there. And I actually saw this. I mentioned it on an earlier program. I saw this on Facebook. Some guy saying, I got a gun and I don't mind eating a squirrel. Stupidest thing I could even imagine. Hello, flyover country. Hello, Washington State. Hello, Rwanda. Hey, everybody, hit the like button. Subscribe. We need subscribers. I'm trying to get to 2,000. But I do need to talk to y'all a little bit about the show here in a little bit. This escape from the cities, this exodus, is just beginning, but it's going to grow and grow and grow. And it's going to become a river of this happening. Had some people that rightfully have showed some concern, not the whole political dialectic, but saying, do you think the things that are going on in the city, the riots, the planned Marxist revolution that's going on, do you think that that's going to be as prevalent in small towns? We have to define what small towns are. The thing is, eventually, it goes everywhere. Eventually, unless you have the ability to stop it, which means individuals, if possible, working together, defending life, liberty, and property, then it's going to go everywhere. That's just an inevitability, especially when you end up with this flight from the cities. All right, so I'm here for your questions and comments. If you guys have any, please type them into the comments section. I don't mean to be a downer, but I thought it's something we ought to talk about. I had a whole other talk that I might do at some point about the Karen phenomenon. Everybody already thinks they know what I'm going to say, even though they're never right. And so that got voted down, and that's fine because I didn't want to do it anyway. I really just want to kind of live in peace and not make a bunch of people mad like I probably did today. Something to ask yourself, though, is how does your personal preparedness, survival, life plan account for this very, very likely phenomenon? All right, so I'm going to be here for a few minutes. If you guys got questions and comments, I'll be glad to hear from you. I want to tell you a little bit about the show. I don't know how things are going to go. Just going to be straightforward and, like I always am, down the road honest with you. Things were going really, really good, kind of at the beginning of this whole thing that's going on. And then, we've basically had the regulars here. Most people are not sharing. And no matter how many times I've mentioned it, most people do not go to YouTube and leave a comment after the show so that the comment will show up, which means it's not being shared by YouTube. Subscribes are going really, really slow. The income since I've been monetized has dropped dramatically to the point where it's not really even paying for the show. I had everybody cancel their Patreon on moral and philosophical reasons, but most people did not move their subscriptions over from Patreon over to my website at michaelbunker.com. And because of that, I have to make some decisions, hard decisions in the next 30 days, what I'm going to do with this show. One of the options is that I stop doing these lives and I just go back to occasionally. I just spilled my water. I caught it, but I spilled some of it. Going back to occasionally putting up videos with topics like how to purify water, how to start a fire, those kind of things. Those things are more likely to be shared. The people who tell me they love this program, and I know there's been 5 or 6 who have donated regularly. The whole idea was that enough people would kind of get interested in learning difficult things, hearing difficult things, and improving themselves on many different levels, that it would be like a show. You know, you got you go pay $1.99 an episode for Yellowstone or to download some movie or whatever it is. Don't ask everybody to do it for every episode, but maybe they would do it once a week, once a month, or whatever. And it's turned out it's just not happened. Other than about 4 or 5 people, most people have not been willing, not only not willing to donate. I understand some people don't have the ability to do that, but they don't share it. They're not coming over to the YouTube channel to do the free things that would help. And I'm not complaining, but I just want everybody to understand when the show completely changes and stops happening, the Bunker Nation thing goes away or whatever, that's going to be the reason. I'm not promising that that's going to happen because I got about 30 days to make some decisions. And so I've been working some on my fitness channel too, trying to get that built up. But I'm probably going to, I'm looking at scaling things back here just because I had hoped, if you go and look at how many views we were getting in March, April, and May, and how many views we're getting now, how many people are sharing it, it's almost none. There's really very, very little interest other than a few people here and there. And so, and like I said, about 50 or 60% of the people that some of them come in and watch all the episodes, they don't ever subscribe. So the subscriptions doesn't go. After about 2,000 subscriptions, it starts to get its own momentum because YouTube will share it more often. But it's very hard to even get people to do it. Anything, even donating is really what would keep us going. But to get them to do anything, going to get a boat. All right. I'd love to move out of Indianapolis, but nowhere to go. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make is the whole, and I've promised to do this for 5 months, the whole bug out idea that is untenable in most places and will not be available for most people, even if they're good at it. The best thing you can do is network, meet people, find like-minded people, and work out a place where you can go. And so, all right, you guys, I'm not seeing any questions, just comments coming in. And so you guys heard my lament about the show. If you want to help, I'm going to give you a couple of things you can do concrete. The first thing you can do is, as soon as this program's over, and if 5 people do it, I'd be shocked of the 26 people that are watching right now, or the future people who are going to watch this in the future. As soon as this show is over, when it's live, your comments don't count. They don't count. YouTube deletes them all. They all go away into the memory hole. After this show is up and published, make a comment on YouTube. Just say, hey, I like the show. Hey, good show. Hey, it sucked. I don't ever see it again. I hope you drown in a fire. Whatever it is, the more comments there are, the more YouTube realizes people are participating and they share it with more people. The second thing you can do is you can like this video, give it a like right now. Not so much on Facebook because that helps, but it doesn't really help much on YouTube. So go to the YouTube video. If you're watching this later, hit the like button and subscribe. Those are the main things you can do. If you'd like to actually help me be able to pay the bills, including this stream going out to 5, or it's about to be 8 platforms, you can go to michaelbunker.com. And when you go to michaelbunker.com, right up in this area on the website, up in this area, it says partner subscribe. And so you can click on that. You can make a donation. You can make a one-time donation, or better yet, you can make a monthly donation of $5, $2, $10, $20, whatever you want to do. And if enough people did that, we'd have no problems. Like I said, we lost about $200 a month convincing people to cancel Patreon for the right reasons. And a lot of people did exactly what I told them to do. They went and canceled their Patreon, and then they never resubscribed. All right, good to know Ron's here, but nobody's asking any questions, so I'm going to check over here real quick. Do I have a raccoon recipe? All meat recipes work for any meat. Rural versus urban, that's the real divide. I might do another show on that. And it's going to get, that divide's going to get harder, and it's going to get personal. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. God bless you. Appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Subscribing is the best thing you can do on YouTube. If you guys have any questions or comments, put them in the comments section after the show is over. If you have other shows you want me to do, other things you want to talk about, get the Lewis Mumford book I meant to mention. Lewis Mumford, The History of the City, and Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. My book with Chris Awalt called Wick, The Wick Omnibus, available on Amazon.com. All 3 of those are going to be in the description down below, the links to them on Amazon. If you were to read in or all of those 3 books, especially Wick, you'd have a real good idea about what's going to happen in your life, most likely. God bless y'all. I love you. I'll talk to you soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll see.